Hello and welcome to another video on this channel, and something a bit different this time. I'm doing a movie review because yesterday I went to see Joker Folie, Deux and I want to talk about it. So back in 2019 we had Joker starring Joaquin Phoenix, directed by Todd Philips, and it was the origin story of a Batman villain we didn't know that we needed. Taking this slightly pathetic character of Arthur Fleck, very downtrodden, not a great clown, an even worse stand-up comedian, but with aspirations of becoming a famous stand-up comedian like Murray Franklin, who has his own show that he and his mother watch every night. Gotham of this era of sort of late 70s, early 80s, it's very run down, rubbish is piling up, there are giant rats terrorizing the city, there's a society that's ready to erupt. It's kind of boiling underneath the surface, and within that is Arthur's quite sad story. Supporting that story is a score by Hilda Guðnadóttir, and she quite rightly won an Academy Award for that score because it's phenomenal. Similarly, Joaquin Phoenix won his Academy Award for Best Leading Actor. And yeah, again, quite rightly so, because it is a superb performance. Not just the sort of physical demands, he's clearly lost a lot of weight, he's very skeletal in the film, but it is an incredible piece of work, highlighted by some musical scenes, one in the bathroom after an encounter on the subway that sees Arthur starting to develop and become who we would eventually know as Joker. Now, the film lacks subtlety. Okay, Todd Philips as a director, his previous films of Old School and the Hangover trilogy probably weren't likely to expect subtlety, but it creates a lot of drama, a lot of tension. There's an unreliable narrator throughout, so you're not really sure what's real, what's in Arthur's head, and there's just this uneasy feeling and overall an ambiguity to certain elements that really help support the film and made it a must-watch. These comic book movies is great for the debate that follows, and I guess I'm joining in that debate right now. Unsurprisingly, given it went down very well at film festivals, and once it hit general audiences, it made a total of $1 billion, which is pretty impressive given it had a budget of about $55 million. So a sequel was bound to happen, really, and it was announced that Joker Folie, Deux would see Joaquin Phoenix reprise the role of Arthur Fleck, and Todd Phillips would be directing again. Lots of the same creatives involved again, including Hilda Guðnadóttir, and the main casting choice was that Lady Gaga was going to be in the film as Harley Quinn. Now, the title is interesting in and of itself. So Folie, Deux alludes to a delusion shared by two people. So we have Arthur Fleck and in the case of this new movie, Lee Quinzel, who share in a particular joint delusions about their relationship and where they can go from here. But we have Arthur starting out in Arkham Asylum, and it's not looking good because he's being tried for multiple murders and faces the death penalty. It's a very interesting sort of opening 45 minutes, an hour or so, where you're very much seeing Arthur back down to his kind of almost pathetic self, really, just being pushed around by the guards and lacking the confidence that he had at the end of the first film once he has embraced this Joker persona. Let's dive straight into it. So whilst I've seen plenty of movie posters with 4 and 5 star reviews. There have been plenty of detractors online who have bemoaned the fact that it is a musical, and I wouldn't say it's a musical, but there are various musical interludes throughout, and it's annoying, to be honest. There's too many of them and it gets distracting. But let's focus on the positives. So it is once again beautifully shot. I saw it on an IMAX screen and it was stunning to look at, lovely visuals, and absolutely worth paying that little bit extra to watch it on a big screen for sure. Lady Gaga herself is also very good. Now, in scenes where she is playing this doe-eyed fangirl of Joker, she's excellent. Joaquin Phoenix as well is equally good. He brings the same level of performance that he did in the first film. However, some of his best scenes are not really opposite Gaga, to be honest. Some of his best moments are when he's opposite Steve Coogan, who's interviewing him, or the Arkham guard played by Brendan Gleeson, Mad-Eye Moody in the Harry Potter films, for those that might remember those. There's a lot of good stuff between particular characters. Similarly, Arthur's lawyer, and the whole time there's this questioning of whether Arthur is Joker or whether the two are two separate entities. We're looking at multiple personality disorder. But the problem is those elements only account for about 1 hour of a good story, and this is why we have all these multiple musical interludes, just to drag the running time out, in my opinion. Some of these scenes are quite nice and fit in with their shared delusions. Going back to the title of the film, the delusion shared by two people, Lee, as she's referred to. I think there's one point where she's referred to as Harley, but she's Lee Quinzel throughout, and Arthur, are sharing their delusions about each other, and 1 or 2 of those musical interludes would work because it supports the narrative that is continuing from the first film, making the audience unsure about what's real and what isn't. However, there's too much of it. It's just too much of it, and it got to a point where I was bored. I was looking at my watch, trying to work out how long this was going to go on for, and I got fairly sick of seeing Lady Gaga come onto screen and appear, because I was anticipating another musical interlude. And the two characters kind of meet by through a music therapy class. So like the tie-in with music is fine. I don't mind that. And if we go back to the original movie, that bathroom scene, as I mentioned, is fantastic, and it's Arthur trying to express himself in physical terms in a way of dealing with emotional turmoil, and that works really well. But it's completely overdone in this one. It's so irritating. Another element is the fact that some of the ambiguity that was left from the first film is just completely undone. I'll go into that in a specific spoiler section, but there is lots of nice stuff. Arthur is trying to work out who he is, trying to uncover whether he is Joker, and those conflicts in himself are interesting. Scenes where Joaquin Phoenix is just in a police van and he's trying out different facial expressions when he's in court, and he's demonstrating different accents he's trying to portray a defense lawyer and a prosecutor. These sorts of things are going on, and there's lots of nice stuff with Joaquin Phoenix. But let's dive into the spoilers. So I am going to talk about stuff that is plot specific. So if you've not seen the film and you want to see the film, then come back and watch the rest of this video after. The courtroom drama is very much the key to this film. And all of that stuff is very good and very intriguing. Now, one of the key elements of ambiguity is what happened to Sophie, Arthur's neighbour, who he becomes obsessed with in the first film. We see her ask him to leave when he breaks into her apartment during a particularly emotional turmoil, and we see him leave. We don't know what happens, but thanks to this film we do, because we know she survived and had to move and all this sort of stuff. And that encounter is really good, because you have Arthur having to be faced with the consequences of what's happened and his actions, and he's having to deal with that. Similarly, when Gary from the first film is called to the witness stand, he has to relive what happened in Arthur's apartment, and go through all that and explain that to Gary, Arthur was the only person that was ever nice to him when they worked together at Haas, and that has been really traumatic for him to have that all undone. So there's some really nice scenes in the courtroom, but unfortunately a lot of it's overshadowed because you've got Lady Gaga sitting in the background and just inspiring him to be Joker, and Joker is you, and that's the person that you should be, and trying to give Arthur this confidence. And ultimately it boils down to Arthur saying, no, I'm not Joker, and he reverts back to Arthur, and he's pathetic, and just it's a real shame, because he's come and grown and now reverted back into himself. Again, this film largely defecates on the good stuff that the first film managed to do, because it takes things like the sort of finger gun to the head that Sophie did in the elevator to connect with Arthur, at least in his head, is completely copied, ripped off, whatever you want to call it. It's replicated by Lady Gaga, and that's how Lee connects with Arthur. And that's really frustrating, because it's like, okay, you haven't got another original idea, it's just do the same thing again, because it worked last time. Obviously the final verdict of the trial is not unexpected, but a car bomb exploding outside is unexpected. However, that's completely wasted, because after a little escapade outside, Arthur's recaptured, ends up in Arkham, and that leaves him just back to his small, normal, pathetic kind of self. He's now reverted back to Arthur, and Joker's very much gone, which sets up the final scene that sees Arthur killed, stabbed. And what's interesting is what happens behind him as his assailant is carving a Heath Ledger-esque smile into his own features. And that's an interesting idea, this prospect that there are other versions of the Joker. There are not quite copycat versions, but the character is beyond Arthur Fleck and Joaquin Phoenix, which has been true for years, and we've all known that. But for fans like myself, who thoroughly enjoyed Joker and thought, wow, this really is the definitive origin story for a character, no, it's not. Basically, this film doesn't want you to think that, and it's a real shame, because this is a movie that didn't need to be made. As I say, the first one took $1 billion, so it was bound to have a sequel. They've spurged $200 million, and it's bombed at the box office. In the US, it's made about $40 million on opening weekend, more than half less what the first film took on that opening weekend. So they've really dropped the ball, and they've probably going to be struggling to even come out even on this one, and rightly so. For those that don't like musicals and don't claim it's a musical, it's not quite a musical, but there is far too much singing and musical interludes, and it did ruin the film for me. It was very irritating, distracting. There was too much, and I just wanted the interesting story and plot and the development of Arthur to continue. But yes, whilst the performances overall are great, Lady Gaga is great in the element that she was required to do, but her influence of being the singer just meant there was more musical numbers than there need to be, and as a result you don't really hear as much of Hilda Guðnadóttir's score. It's, you know, it's there in certain scenes and you notice it and it's great, and yeah, there's not enough of it because we've got to cut to a delusional musical interlude that doesn't really forward anything. Disappointing is yeah, and frustrating is how I would describe this film. I would encourage people to go and see it, make up your own minds. Plenty of people have enjoyed it for being a bit different and being what they didn't expect, but for me, the way it's tarnished the first film, it's undone or answered a lot of the ambiguity of that first film, is a real shame. And yeah, I wish they had made it, but there we go. Money talks in Hollywood. Thank you for watching. I don't know what the next video will be, but make sure you like and subscribe to this channel so that you see the next video as and when it comes. Thank you for watching.